It's 80 degrees outside and super windy, so occasionally we will hear the greenhouse shake, but so far still standing. We're gonna run with that. I have a few things I'm going to work on tonight. We're on our last day of 80 degrees. I think for the next 4 days it looks like lows in the 32 degrees Fahrenheit range, highs in the 50s, which is still much better than wintertime, but it's not 80 degrees. So I am going to try to accomplish some things. I'm going to add some dirt to the strawberry bed. I'm going to move the strawberries, and then I'm going to put the saffron bulbs in the window boxes that my strawberries are currently occupying, and I'm going to wash out the rain barrel because we're also due to get rain. So I'm going to rinse some of the debris from last year so it's ready to go. And if there's any time left, I'm going to try to take care of the mess I left myself last fall in this corner when I got frost suddenly and ran out of energy. So, put you on a time lapse and come and work with me. So I've successfully moved the strawberries from window boxes to the bed to the south of the greenhouse and watered the topsoil in so it's a little bit damp, moves down into the clay, has some moisture for the garlic that I planted to hold on to, as well as for the strawberries to continue to take root and hopefully spread. Worst case scenario, I get more strawberry roots at the garden center and I have strawberries later. So not a huge deal for me. But by clearing out the strawberries from the window boxes, that meant that I could move the saffron bulbs from tiny terracotta pots to the window boxes. So I moved those over, watered those in. We'll see how they do. I wouldn't expect them to start sprouting probably till this fall. But now that's given me some space on my makeshift pallet shelf for the seedlings that I started to hang out up on the shelf. So that means that I get to now tackle the mess I left myself last fall on the seating area of my greenhouse. So when they tell you to consider the size of your greenhouse, they tell you that it can always be bigger. You'll always want it to be bigger. So I got a 9-foot by 21-foot greenhouse. And then I deliberately planned for 17 feet of it to be garden beds. I realized in my main garden that when I have 3-foot beds, I can just reach the back of it relatively comfortably. And so I had 3-foot beds in here, which left me about a 3-foot walkway. I'm working on putting sand in the center walkway so it'll retain some heat, be nice to walk on, hopefully not very noisy, and allows drainage. So we'll see how the sand works. Space, back to space. So 21 feet long, 9 feet wide, 17 feet of beds, which is great in the winter, should be great in the winter. The remainder of it is seating on the south side, so southwest, and then potting bench on the northwest. And the reasoning, I originally in my design had it with the potting bench on the south side and the seating closer to the main garden area, except that the potting bench I got is metal, and I thought that the sun shining off of that into where I was sitting was not going to be very comfortable, so flipped those around, and now that's where I have my geothermal tubing going in and out, is underneath the potting bench. That's another project this summer, is solidifying and tidying up the geothermal tubing and control works and battery bank and all of that. Got a bit surprised by the frost beginning, snow on the ground in November. That's not out of the norm for my region, but we'd had some pretty dry winters previous to that. So kind of rushed pushing everything into the greenhouse and didn't consider how much moving space I would need. So moving around physically in the space. So did learn that I could keep plants alive throughout the winter. Excellent. Did also learn that I need to start those sooner and have a spreadsheet prepared to be able to know when it's 12 weeks, 10 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks out from my projected first frost. And then I can extend that a little bit in the greenhouse, and I need to worry more about the sunlight, so the winter solstice. So my major project early on this season is to tidy up that sitting area, get a nice cushion. For my bench, I need to attach the back of the bench to the base of the bench. And by bench, I mean it's a pallet that my cinder blocks came on. But since I already paid for the cinder blocks and their delivery, free bench. I also don't love how the shelf looks. It's a later problem. It's not an emergency right now. And then I made a massive change out in the yard. When we bought this house in 2017, there was a little maple tree that was south of where my garden is, and now where the greenhouse is. Not a huge problem. It was little, cute, had a tiny little circular pattern to the top. But then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. So I decided that has to go because maples get really tall. And I can accept a tree that is like 20 feet high. Not a big deal. 40 feet high? Not so much. If it were on the north side of my yard, because I'm in the northern hemisphere, wouldn't be that big of a deal because it wouldn't block the sun. But since I only have 120 growing days, I need all the sun I can get. A little bit of shade is fine. A lot of shade, not good. So we had friends come over last night. Thanks, Chris and Ann. Chopped down the tree, dismembered the branches, and then cut the logs into usable pieces. So my plan is that I'm going to mulch all those branches. It's going to add to my walkways. And then I'm going to use the trunks later for a mushroom project, I think. That'll be good. And I made a start on emptying out some of the containers that did not overwinter very well, putting those on top of the compost pile, watered things in, repaired my rain barrel in here. I need to go rinse out the rain barrel that is attached to the house because that has some leaf debris in it from last season before I got the screen on the top. So I'm going to go rinse that off. We're expecting rain tomorrow. There's about a 40% chance, so I want to be prepared for that. And moved the baby seedlings that I started in March and then last weekend up onto my little pallet shelf. I've got a lot of exciting things to show you when we do a garden tour this weekend.